Good morning. I'm David Skeel, the chairman of the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico. I'd like to welcome all of you joining us today for this 42nd public meeting of the Oversight Board, which we are holding virtually, although a number of us are also here in the offices of the Oversight Board in San Juan. To kick things off, as usual, I'll start with a roll call to formally determine which board members are present, either here with us in the offices or by Zoom. So starting with Dr. Andrew Biggs.
Present.
Thank you, Andrew. Judge Arthur Gonzalez. I see his lips moving.
Present.
Yeah, now I hear him. John Nixon here in person.
Present.
Thank you, John. Dr. Betty Rosa, I think, is not present. I am here, and Omar Marrero, who is the Secretary of State and Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Fiscal Agency and Financial Advisory Authority, or FOMB, who today will be acting on behalf of ex officio member and Governor of Puerto Rico, Pedro Pierluisi. Omar?
Good morning, present. Thank you, Chairman.
Nice to see you, Mr.
Likewise.
Secretary. So we do have a quorum, and we can call the meeting to order. As usual, I'd like to ask our General Counsel, Mr. Jaime El Khoury, if he would be willing to act as Secretary for the meeting.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. I'd like to thank everybody who's here in person. I'd like to thank everybody who is here on Zoom and also those who are watching our live stream, which is at the Oversight Board's website, www.oversightboard.pr.gov. The audio of the meeting is available both in English and in a simultaneous Spanish translation. In addition, the meeting is being translated into sign language. If you log on to the English language version of the website, you get the English audio. If you log on to the Spanish website, you hear the simultaneous translation. As usual, we'll be handling any questions and comments from participants online through a form that's available on our website. You can find the form on the live stream page and complete it by putting your name and adding any questions or comments that you might have. We'll take questions and comments until 15 minutes before the end of the meeting, and we will provide answers and responses on our website promptly after the meeting. We'll also, I think, have an opportunity for live comments at the end of the meeting. We have a number of items on the agenda for today. We'll start by approving minutes. We'll then do a couple of our standard administrative matters. Then getting to the substance of the meeting, we're going to certify a revised 2024 budget for PREPA. We will consider and approve reapportionment requests. We'll have an update from our Executive Director, Robert Mujica. We'll have some remarks from Secretary of State Omar Marrero, and then the public commentary and adjournment. As usual, the first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last public meeting, which was held on September 12th, 2023. Those minutes are attached to the meeting materials in Appendix A. We also have a number of executive sessions that we need to approve minutes for, a number of executive sessions since our last public meeting. Those executive sessions were on September 22, September 29, October 6, October 25, November 3, November 15, December 1, December 8, and today, December 12, 2023. The minutes from these meetings are appendix, or the executive session minutes are Appendix B. Are there any questions about the minutes or corrections or anything of that sort? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed minutes. Andrew?
Mr. Chair, I would like to move to approve the proposed minutes of the Oversight Board's public meeting held on September 12, 2023, attached as Appendix A, and the minutes of the executive sessions held on September 22, September 29, October 6, October 25th, November 3rd, November 15th, December 1st, December 8th, and today, December 12th, 2023, which are attached as Appendix B in the form presented to the meeting.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you, John. I will, in a second, ask for a voice vote. As usual, I'll first ask all in favor to say yes. I'll ask any who are opposed to say no, and then finally I'll ask if there are any abstentions. So would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. And then we have two administrative matters. Would someone like to make the first motion, which I think was actually the Andrew motion? I think I messed up.
You messed it up.
I'll do double duty today. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the following motion. Between the adjournment of this meeting and the opening of the Oversight Board's next public meeting, the Oversight Board may consider in executive session any and all matters that it is authorized to consider under PROMESA, including first, any certification determinations authorized per PROMESA, including certification determinations under Section 206 of PROMESA. Second, any submissions or authorizations authorized by PROMESA, and third, any filings authorized under Title III of PROMESA, in each case that are set forth as part of the vote to convene such executive session. The Oversight Board may also act by unanimous written consent between meetings in accordance with its bylaws, with such consent to include consent by electronic transmission.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Say no. Any abstentions? That motion passes. And then finally, we have one more administrative motion, which relates to unanimous written consents. Would somebody be willing to make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to confirm and approve the UWCs adopted by the Oversight Board since the adjournment of our last public meeting, which are included in Appendix C.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Andrew. Would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Say no. Any abstentions? And that motion passes as well. Now we'll move to the substance of the meeting, and we're going to begin by certifying the amended PREPA budget for the current fiscal year, which will be presented by our Executive Director, Robert Mujica. Robert, the floor is yours.
Okay. Chairman Skeel, board members, Governor, I want to give a brief overview of the Oversight Board work since the last public board meeting in September. Infrastructure, which took up a significant part of my remarks in September when I discussed the PREPA Plan of Adjustment and Puerto Rico's progress and challenges in its transition towards renewable energy, remained the key focus. The PREPA Plan of Adjustment, which would reduce PREPA's debt by about 80% and save Puerto Rico about $15 billion in principal and interest payments, remains on track. The U.S. District Court scheduled confirmation hearings in March, and we are confident that our plan is confirmable, despite some significant opposition from those bondholders who have not agreed to the proposed terms. However, a significant number of bondholders have agreed to the plan, support that is critical for the confirmation, and we hope we will gain even more support in the months ahead of the hearings. The transformation of Puerto Rico's energy system is so important for everyone here, and Puerto Rico cannot move forward without getting PREPA out of bankruptcy. So we are pushing to end PREPA's bankruptcy so Puerto Rico can finally get more reliable and cleaner energy. The government has also reached a significant milestone to improve Puerto Rico's infrastructure this quarter with the agreement with PR Toll Roads, which will operate under the name Puerto Ricans already know. Metropistas PR Toll Roads will now manage PR 20, PR 52, PR 53, and PR 66. Under the concession agreement, PR Toll Roads agreed to invest in improved roadways and improve safety and upgrades, make repairs to drainage, signage, barriers, guardrails, and lighting within the first 2 years of the agreement. Over the next 7 years, PR Toll Roads agreed to major reconstruction and improvements to road surfaces and bridges, and other major improvements have to be completed within the next 12 years. This should bring Puerto Rico's toll roads to a state of good repair as defined by the Federal Highways and Transportation Authority. The concession agreement also allows HTA to repay the debt, which the Oversight Board has already reduced by more than 80%. In addition, the agreement provides Puerto Rico with an almost $1 billion capital improvement fund, which the government has agreed to dedicate to capital projects for the construction, maintenance, and improvement of Puerto Rico's non-toll road network. The Oversight Board approved restricting these funds for strictly transportation infrastructure, and I would like to commend the government for its commitment to invest in road maintenance over the next decades. Together, we must ensure strong safeguards to preserve these funds and their benefits for the long term. The people of Puerto Rico depend on solid and well-maintained roads, and now we have a funding stream to ensure that over the long term. We also made progress with the government on the partial implementation of the early retirement program under Law 80-2020. The Oversight Board and AFAF have made substantial progress to define the terms of the implementation for certain non-essential government employees, and the government's impacted agencies as well as public corporations took great care to complete a very complicated and time-consuming determination of identifying specifically which positions were non-essential and that their permanent elimination would not adversely affect the government's ability to provide essential services to Puerto Rico's residents. The Oversight Board and the government will continue working together with a final stipulation that would enable implementation of the program in the spring of 2024. Taxes have become a front-page issue in recent months in Puerto Rico. The Oversight Board supported a multi-year cap of the inventory tax at the level of current payments. Such a cap would make more goods available, but also guarantee inventory tax revenue equal to the highest annual collections from the prior 3 years, so municipal finances would not suffer a decline in revenue, while businesses could increase their inventory and investments without the burden of an additional tax. Capping the inventory tax seemed like a reasonable compromise to provide tax relief on a tax that has negative impact on businesses and the island's overall economic development, while not impacting the financial plan's budget. The Puerto Rico House of Representatives passed such a bill to freeze the inventory tax, but unfortunately, the Puerto Rico Senate did not move the bill along. However, both houses of the Legislative Assembly passed substitute to House Bill 1839, which is one of the largest personal and corporate income tax cuts in Puerto Rico's recent history. This massive tax cut would reduce government revenues by about $750 million in its current fiscal year, along with almost $3 billion over the next 5 years, only a year after emerging from bankruptcy. After passing a budget on June 30th of this year, the legislature went on to pass new revenue and spending measures, which would add up to nearly $1 billion this year outside of the budget process. The tax reduction bill as it stands threatens the government's fiscal stability, and the substantial losses in revenue combined with the government's spending priorities would push the government's budget back into deficit, erasing the progress made in recent years to stabilize Puerto Rico's finances. The Oversight Board and the Governor's administration is now working on updating the fiscal plan for 2024, and the revised projections based on updated current data will be the basis for the fiscal year 2025 budget. The fiscal plan the governor proposed includes a significant increase in long-term revenues and outlines several new spending priorities. While some of those new spending priorities have merit, as a whole, the plan does not adequately consider whether those expenditures are affordable, and we are working with the government to align the revenues and the spending. For the Oversight Board to fully consider the government's requests, revisions to the proposed plan will be required, and we will work with the governor's administration to develop a fiscal plan, as we have in the past, that will guide Puerto Rico's economic development and path to fiscal responsibility as mandated under Promesa. The Oversight Board will be providing a detailed analysis of Puerto Rico's fiscal situation shortly when it publishes its first quarterly financial update. We decided to provide regular quarterly updates to give the people of Puerto Rico, the government, investors in Puerto Rico's futures, and those who are interested in Puerto Rico's fiscal stability, more timely data about where Puerto Rico stands. These financial plan updates are common amongst local governments, and they should be regular practice here. I believe that this will add clarity and transparency not only to the Oversight Board's projections and decisions, but to the overall state of Puerto Rico's finances. Our projections in the fiscal plan are based on the most current data available, and our estimates rely on the data that the government provides. The Oversight Board does not generate its own data, and that is why the Oversight Board's projections and the difference between projections and actual government revenue and expenditures have been very similar. There are forecast error rates seen in Puerto Rico's projections in both FOMB and the government's projections, but they are still within expectations given the very high reliance on volatile revenue streams such as corporate taxes and multiple economic shocks. In the past fiscal year 2023 that ended on June 30th, general fund revenues exceeded forecast but decreased year over year relative to fiscal year 2022. In the first quarter of the current fiscal year 2024, however, general fund revenues have exceeded projections, driven primarily by business-related income taxes, both corporate income taxes and non-resident withholding, personal income taxes, sales and use taxes, and the motor vehicles excise tax. The stability and predictability of revenue collections in Puerto Rico is challenged by the characteristics of its tax base. Specifically, taxes on corporations contribute a significantly higher proportion of total general fund revenues in Puerto Rico. They account for approximately 38% of revenues in Puerto Rico compared to only 8% in the mainland U.S. and federal revenues. Corporate taxes historically are volatile and difficult to forecast, given that they are influenced by various factors, such as the economic business cycle and sophisticated fiscal strategies of individual corporations. The report for the first quarter of the fiscal year will show that Puerto Rico's current economic performance is better than previously forecasted, mainly because decreased inflation, increased economic activity, and stronger revenue collections. Economic performance in Puerto Rico has been boosted by continuous emergency and stimulus funds from the federal government. There are, however, potential significant spending obligations, including Medicaid costs, uncertain long-term Medicaid funding levels, potentially new recurring expenditures that are currently paid with one-time federal funds, and including salary increases for teachers and potential additional Commonwealth contributions to fund disaster relief projections. Those spending obligations include salaries for teachers and correctional officers, and that are right now funded by one-time federal funds that will expire in 2024. We need to make sure the budget makes room to fund those over the long term. Potentially maintaining higher levels of funding for the University of Puerto Rico and municipalities are also issues that need to be discussed. Additional funds to cover an increased local share of the Earned Income Tax Credit, expansion of the Medicaid program, higher than estimated PAYGO pension costs, requested salary increases for firefighters. These items may themselves have their merits. Teachers and firefighters deserve their salaries, and the EITC is a sensible program. But taken together, these funding requirements could affect the fiscal balance of the current fiscal year and in the future, particularly if the government lowers taxes at the same time that we are incurring these additional expenses. Taking on additional expenditures specified under the incremental funding risks without a sustainable recurring funding source could create a budget imbalance. Already, the Legislative Assembly passed legislation impacting the current year's budget by $1 billion only months into the new fiscal year. The Legislative Assembly did not amend the budget to accommodate the costs. It simply passed the laws without regard to the budget impact. No government can increase spending and reduce income over an extended period of time without threatening its fiscal stability. However, given that the currently projected overperformance in revenue for FY 2024, the Oversight Board believes that there is an opportunity to agree to some form of one-time, non-recurring relief for individual income tax filers for the current tax year, 2023, and within the frame of the government's already established spending priorities. So, board members, the Oversight Board is closing a very successful calendar year in 2023. We made progress on the PREPA debt restructuring, including a significant legal win in our efforts to reduce bondholder claims against the utility to affordable levels. HTA has new funds to invest in road improvements. Together with the governor and the Legislative Assembly, we agreed on a budget that was compliant with the fiscal plan, and it was passed on time. We hope we can end the year with some form of tax relief for the people of Puerto Rico, and we continue in our negotiations with the government and the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for that update. And I believe now we'll shift to PREPA and to approving the amended PREPA budget. Then we'll go to reapportionments, and then we'll have some remarks from Secretary of State Marrera.
Mr. Chairman, the budget amendment that we are proposing to be certified today incorporates two main changes. First, it recognizes from the Commonwealth loan to PREPA, assuming it is executed and proportionally funds a PREPA employment retirement system contribution to cover pension fund payments and related costs. Second, it concurs with the Puerto Rico Energy Bureau's resolutions and orders issued on September 22nd and more recently on December 8th, whereby PREP reallocated across different PREPA operating entities.
Thank you, Robert. I would like to ask for a motion from the board to certify the revised fiscal year 2024, actually it's PREPA, right? PREPA budget as described by Robert. Is it PREPA? It's PREPA.
Yes.
Not Commonwealth. Do we have a motion?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to certify the revised fiscal year 2024 PREPA budget.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Arthur. I'll take a voice vote per usual. Would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is some reprogramming requests, and those will be presented by Ginorli Maldonado, the Oversight Board's Commonwealth Fiscal Plan and Budget Director. Ginorli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Skeel. Good morning, everyone. We now present for the Oversight Board's action a series of recommendations on reapportionment requests from the Government of Puerto Rico. Attached here to as Exhibit 1, I would like to highlight the following reapportionments. The Puerto Rico Fire Bureau requests an interagency transfer from fiscal year 2024 General Fund unallocated CapEx under the custody of the Office of Management and Budget in the amount of $1.1 million to pay for bunker suits purchased in fiscal year 23 and received this fiscal year. The recommendation is to approve the request as sufficient information has been provided with the request. The next one is the Department of Economic Development and Commerce requests a budget increase of $1.7 million to cover payroll expenses for additional back office personnel related to the transformation within their finance department. The recommendation is to partially approve the request by $1.2 million to cover the cost for the remaining 7 months within fiscal year 2024. The next request is the Puerto Rico Police Bureau is requesting a reprogramming from CapEx into OpEx in the amount of $4.5 million to cover the acquisition of 1,000 body cameras and 100 patrol vehicle cameras for the police officers, along with a 3-year licensing period of related software for live video transmission and video evidence storage. The recommendation is to approve this request, as well as sufficient information has been provided. And lastly, the Legislative Assembly requests an interagency transfer in the amount of $4.6 million from the custody of the Office of Management and Budget to the Legislative's House of Representatives to cover a projected budget shortfall in payroll due to the American Rescue Plan Act funds expiring. The recommendation is to approve the request as sufficient information was provided. This concludes my presentation unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Janorli. And I'd, since I don't hear any questions, like to have a motion to approve this group of reprogramming requests. Would somebody make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve the pending reprogramming requests.
Thank you, John. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andrew. Would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Say no. Any abstentions? So that motion passes as well. And we now shift and turn to the Secretary of State, Omar Marrero, who would like to make a few remarks about where things are right now. Thanks, Omar.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and thank you all, and thank you, Executive Director, for that update. I will be brief. I just want to thank the collaboration of the Oversight Board, not only its Executive Director, but the rest of the staff in making sure that we could reach an agreement for the PREPA budget amendment. The commitment of the government of Puerto Rico and the Honorable Pedro Pierluisi with our retirees has been genuine since the first one, since day one. Since day one. And PREPA is not the exception. So thank you for that, and we'll continue to make sure that we get to a permanent solution, obviously as part of the confirmation process of the Title III. As to the toll road transaction, again, this is a landmark transaction that we were able to achieve it because we also collaborate strongly with the Oversight Board. So since the plan of adjustment for HTA, we were working on this transaction, on designing this transaction, and we walk hand on hand with the Oversight Board. And I have to commend the team from the Oversight Board that did a phenomenal job in supporting the P3 authority in completing this transaction. We're in the middle of the financial closing. This will occur in the next day or so, but definitely it's a big transaction. Not only allows HTA to be freed of debt, but more importantly allows for long-term planning and managerial continuity that will definitely deliver great benefits for the people of Puerto Rico, similar to what we saw with the Pier 22 and Pier 5. With Act 80 as well, we were able to get to a solution because we worked together. And in that spirit and in that sentiment, I want to call for the Oversight Board once again to work with the government of Puerto Rico, with the Governor Pedro Pierluisi, to achieve a relief to a working class. We are cognizant of the concerns that the Oversight Board has on the proposed tax reform. That's why the governor has been open to be flexible to the extent that we can achieve a relief, even if it's a one-time, non-recurring basis in this year, to consider it in order to get some relief to the Puerto Rican families which they need. So again, I just want to commend the entire staff of the Oversight Board for collaborating with the government of Puerto Rico on this several very important matters for the government. And again, we expect to continue in that same spirit. Thank you, Chairman. I'll yield back.
Thank you, Omar. And I'll just kind of reiterate what you just said about HTA. The P3 was extraordinarily successful. Congratulations on that, really, for everyone. And we really do appreciate the collaborative relationship with y'all. We have our differences at times, but the lines are always open, which is very, very much appreciated. Would anybody else like to make any comments? Okay, I think we have a few minutes left still for public commentary or questions. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that online instead of live. But as I said, we'll get to those questions and comments very promptly after this meeting. And that's it for this meeting. Unless anybody has anything else we should talk about. Would somebody, or I guess I can make the motion to adjourn. Would somebody second my motion to adjourn?
Second that.
Thank you, John. Would all in favor please say yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we can now call this meeting to a close, or bring this meeting to a close. Thanks to everybody who is here on Zoom and has been watching. And we'll end it with that.